Hi there, welcome to the YouTube channel. Going back in time a little bit today for today's deck tech. One of the sets I've been keeping an eye on for a while now is Jumpstart. We've used the odd Jumpstart legend here and there. Zerzoth Chaos Raider springs Rider springs to mind, where we've been getting extra demons, so on and so forth, and it's turned up some other decks. But there's been a couple of cards, obviously, I've been keeping an eye on. Some of them I'm probably never going to cover, like Muctors. I think it's sitting around about 35 tickets at the moment, alongside Bravik, the Grand Delinquent, or whatever it is, the one that doubles the mill going through. That's in around about 20 tickets at the moment. So I'm probably, unless they come down significantly in price, get reprinted somewhere, probably not going to be covered anytime soon. There's a few legends from Jumpstart. They're quite interesting. And today's deck tech is all about one of the ones that I've kept my eye on, I've wanted to do for a little while. And it is, obviously, Neyith of the Dire Hunt. 2 and green for a 3/3 human warrior. Not the best stats in the world, but whenever one or more creatures you control fight or become blocked, draw a card. Okay. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may pay 2 and then either red or green mana. And if you do, double target creature's power until the end of turn. That creature must be blocked this combat if able. Right then. So kind of semi-built-in lure and then a real reward for making your creatures fight other creatures. Is there anything we can do with this? Well, yes, of course there is. It's a real fight deck, and this is what today's deck looks like. As usual, go through the mana base to start things off with. I will just point out a couple of things to start with. Only 36 lands, so 25 creatures and 38 other spells. The lands, pretty much your usual expected selection of red-green lands. Command Towers here, Fabled Passages here. Blighted Woodlands here. Unusually, I don't play Blighted Woodland that often in decks anymore, but in this deck I think it has a bit of a home to try and fetch out some of the colours we may be missing. Now, because of the colour pairing we're playing, it is mainly green in the deck. There's very little red, as you can see, across the whole of the screen. But so we've got a higher propensity of forests and a lower number of mountains, but we've got a lot of red-green dual lands, so it should balance itself out. As for the artifact ramp, my usual selection of Tantalite, Talisman and Ringer here, along with Arcane Signet. And then in addition, I've gone with the 2 diamonds, Fire and Moss. And also Jeweled Lotus, because getting Neyith down on turn 1 is a real possibility with this deck, and it could be useful doing that, because she is a 3/3 and she's going to be able to kill a lot of the early drops in the game if we can get them out quite early, if we can get her out quite early on. So Jeweled Lotus really helps that. Obviously this card just keeps going up and up and up and up, even though it's been reprinted. It could be one of the cards you want to get rid of if you're building this in real life. That's assuming you can find Neyith in the first place, of course. It is an older card now, so sorry about the wait for this one. But yeah, it's worth having in the deck. Beyond that, what we're really looking at is creatures that either fight when they come into play, get a benefit from fighting, or give us a benefit when there's an empty board that we can attack into. So, here we go. Monstrous Rage is the first fight spell. Kind of. It's not really a fight spell. What it does, it gives our creature +2/+0 until the end turn, so that does help with the fighting. It also puts a monster roll token on it to give something trample, which could be really useful for some of the cards we've got coming up, so bear that in mind. Bushwhack is also here. That gives us, it serves 2 purposes. Early game is go and find a basic land, put it in our hand, shuffle our library. That's what it's here for, ramp. Late game is an extra fight spell for 1 green mana from the Brothers' War, which really does make the deck tick a little bit better. Overall Tracker has built-in fight. Now, it's a 1-drop for 1, and then it's 1 green and 1 to tap it. Target creature you control fights another target creature. If you're fighting something like a Bird's Paradise or a 0/1, that's fine. You can use the Overworld Tracker to fight that creature, but be warned, you want to keep the Tracker in play because you need it in play when some of your other creatures turn up. So, yeah. Elixir of Immortality, because we are fighting, a lot of our creatures will get killed off, so we need to get them shuffled back in so we can keep doing it, hence why it's here. And one of the creatures that gets probably killed off quite often is Dockside. It's a red deck, well, green-red deck, but it's still a red deck, so therefore Dockside's here. I've also included the Raging Battle Mouse from Wildsvale Drain. You're probably wondering why this is here, but it's because of the cost reduction for the second spell we play each turn. That means you can get maybe a couple of fight spells off, or you can cast the creature and then use a fight spell with that creature. And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, if 2 or more non-land permanents enter the battlefield under your control this turn, you get to put a +1/+1 somewhere, which means you might be able to do a little bit more fighting after combat if you're lucky. So, hey. We have got Ancient Animist here, just a little fight spell if it's, this instant, which is quite nice. And if you target a legendary creature, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. Epic Confrontation's a fight spell that pumps our creature before it fights for sorcery speed. Inscription of Abundance chucks a couple of +1/+1 counters on a creature and then you get to fight. Or it may be that you do the 2 +1/+1 counters and then gain the life. What I would suggest is hanging on so you can kick this at 5 mana though, because then you can do all 3, which really may save your soul at some stage. Prize Fight, another instant fight spell, but also gives you a treasure token. Rampant Growth just goes and fetches a land, probably a mountain. Ruthless Predation, another fight spell for 2 mana. Savage Punch is a fight spell for 2 mana, and hopefully you've got a creature that's got a power greater than 4, so you get the +2/+2 before the fight occurs. Sylvan Caryatid just gives a little bit of creature-based ramp. And Up the Beanstalk replaces itself and then draws us some more cards when we get some of the bigger creatures down the line. Pit Fight, another fight spell that can either be paid or red or green. Arnie Slays a Troll, yeah, another a fight spell to start with, which is okay, but then you get to do the add a red mana and put 2 +1/+1 counters on up to 1 target creature you control, and then you gain life with the greatest power. So, it's not a bad saga to have from Kaldheim. Ruby Daring Tracker jumps in from the Wildsvale Drain set just to give us a little bit more ramp and a reasonably good attacker when we get that far. Up at the 3-drop, we have the Triumph of Annex to start off with from Theros Beyond, if I remember. Yeah, Beyond Death. Until the end of turn, target creature gains trample and +X/+0X the number of law counters on here. So you get +1, then +2, then +3. And then when you hit the +4 thing, up targets creature you control fights up to 1 target creature you don't control, hence why it's here. But gives you a nice bit of trample and damage to go through in the first place. Cartouche Strength, +1/+1 trample and a fight. The Curse of the Werefox comes in. You get to do the whole monster roll token again from the Wildsvale Drain and then fight something. So you're pumping up something with +1/+1 and then trample. Growing Rights of Imhotep, just to go and find some of the creatures we need. It also counts as our 37th land in this deck. Savage Stomp does the whole +1/+1 counter on a creature, then you get to fight. There's 1 dinosaur at least in the deck, so you may be able to do it at a cheaper cost of 1 green mana. Time to Feed. Whenever that creature dies this turn, you gain 3 life. Target creature you control fights that creature. Put it on a small creature, make sure you fight it to gain the life, basically. Bowl Annihilea. Attacking creatures you control have Death Touch. Some of the instant fight spells are very good when you've got something that's got Death Touch on it. Bear that in mind. Domri Rad obviously has the -2 for the fight, but the +1 is look at the top card and get a creature in your hand. And hopefully you might be able to get to the -7 and give all our creatures double strike, trample, hexproof, and haste. Domri of the Anarch of Bolus, the Anarch of Bolus, gives all our creatures a little pump, and then we get to do the whole green or red mana, and you get to do the can't be countered. It also has a -2 where you can fight, so repeatable fight is always good. And Gimli, Mournful Avenger from Lord of the Rings, turns up, has indestructible as long as 2 more creatures died under your control this turn. Maybe. But whenever another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Gimli. When this ability resolves for the 3rd time, this turn, Gimli fights up to 1 target creature. Yeah, but you're getting +1/+1 counters on a dwarf. It's fine. Witchstalker Frenzy, 5 damage for each because the creatures that attack. Just a little bit of removal if we need it. It's a nice instant 5 damage removal spell most of the time in this deck. Frontier Siege gives us the mana. We don't have any creatures with flying, so we're not having them come in and fight, unfortunately. So Frontier Siege is really here for the extra mana. Hunt the Weak, the traditional fight spell, is here. Garrick Wildspeaker to untap our lands, give us more mana. Wicked Wolf fights up to 1 creature you don't control, and then Sacrifice of Food, put a +1/+1 counter on the Wicked Wolf. It gains indestructible until the end of the turn. Tap it. No real food generation here, so this is a 4 mana 3/3 that you're hopefully going to kill an X2 with very quickly. Or, X3 I should say, because you don't mind if the Wicked Wolf dies, but, we'll see. Hans Eriksson, a little bit of fun. Had to have this in here just because it's another commander's card. Attacks reveal the top card of his creature, puts it into battlefield, taps and attacking, and it fights Hans Eriksson, which means you'd get a card. So that's cool. Brash Taunter. If there was any creature built for a fight deck, it's this one. We all know what it does by now. Yeah. Ihag, the Raise Boar, comes in. Return that creature to your hand at the beginning next end step. Dies with put into exile from the battlefield. You may put it on top into its loaner's library, third from top. So it always comes back and gives you a nice way of cheating some of your bigger creatures into play. Like Agatha's Champion. There are some things you can sacrifice off eventually to bargain this with. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a case of probably a 4/4 trampler. But yeah, you might get some benefits to sacking the odd thing off here and there. Like, yeah. Ooh. Nothing from here, unfortunately. But Primordial Plasm enters the battlefield. It's the invasion of Mughra. Puts +1/+1 on target creature, and it fights. And then if you can get it flipped into the use at the beginning of combat in your turn, another target creature gets +2/+2 and loses all abilities until the end of turn. You don't mind put it on some of your creatures. You don't want to put it on all of them. Return of the Wild Speaker. Either the +3/+3 or draw some cards. Probably the draw the cards section. Shamanic Revelation will definitely be the card draw and the life gain most of the time. Somberwald Stag enters the battlefield. You may have it fight creature you don't control. Yep, okay. And Vorinclex. It's a fight deck at the end of the day. You have to play this version of the Vorinclex Praetor, because once you get to that level 3 and pay 1 mana, this creature fights a target creature you don't control. You're going to be clearing the board out quite a bit. And Quartz Wood Crasher. No fighting on this. However, whenever one or more creatures you control with trample deal damage to a player, create XX green dinosaur beast creature token with trample, where X is the amount of damage those creatures dealt to that player. Going to get some big tokens very quickly because your board will be clear. Markov Enforcer comes in from the Innistrad Commander decks, if I remember correctly, the latest Innistrad set. Whenever it enters the battlefield or another vampire, you get to fight one target creature an opponent controls, and whenever a creature dealt damage by Markov Enforcer dies this turn, create a blood token. It gives you another way of card drawing. It also gives you something to sacrifice when you're trying to do Agatha's Champion. So, it does work. The Huntmaster is also here. Whenever it attacks, when it enters the battlefield, you get 2 wolf tokens that are 2/2s, and when you get it to flip tonight, enters the battlefield or attacks, create 2 wolf tokens, and another wolf or werewolf you control fights target creature you don't control. Okay then. Gargos Vicious Watcher. No other Hydras in the deck, but whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell, it fights something. So you're targeting that's double fighting, and okay then. Gruff Triplets, just for a bit of fun, because I'm determined to make sure I get a big gruff at some stage. Kolga the Titan, the Ape Titan, or King Kong as was, comes in from the wonderful world, I forgot the name of it, Ikoria. Yep, where we're going back to next set. And it invites up to 1 target creature you don't control. Okay then. Waking the Trolls, blows up a land, gives you some trolls at the end of the day, try and win the game with. Ravager Worm fights when it enters the play, and it has the riot choice, so you can either give it haste or a +1/+1 counter. I would suggest if you're going to fight, the 5/6 is better than a 4/5 haste. But you may need to destroy a land with a target activated ability that isn't a mana ability. Possible, but the chances are you're going to fight, and it's going to come in as a 5/6. Bear that in mind. Kolga and Yadaro obviously appear as well. Had to have them in here. Enters the battlefield, we choose one. It either fights, it's trample and haste until the end turn, or if push comes to shove, you get to discard Kolga and Yadaro, destroy its 1 target artifact or enchantment, and shuffle it into your library from your graveyard and draw a card. Repeatable enchantment artifact removals, not bad in Commander, I understand. The Foe Razor is one of the only dragon we do have in the deck. Comes into play, fight a creature you don't control, and whenever a creature you control fights, put 2+1/+1 counters on it at the beginning of the next end step. So you can make your creatures bigger if you fight properly. Thorn Mammoth enters the battlefield, or another creature enters the battlefield. It fights up to one target creature you don't control. Be careful, you don't want to lose your 6/6 trample that's cost you 7 mana to get into play. Grill Rage Beast is another 6/6 for 7 mana that enters, or another creature enters the battlefield. It fights target creature an opponent controls. So, you know, repeatable fight effects for your creatures as they come in. They will die off, though. Blasphemous Act is the only board control we have in the deck. Usually in a red-green deck, I'd have this. I'd have Heroic Intervention. I'd have Chain Reaction. Maybe some other things as well. This is the only one I went with for this deck, because this is really just here to deal with any token stuff. Because anything else that turns up, we should have enough fight spells with enough creatures to keep the board fairly clean. But apart from token decks can be problematic, hence why Blasphemous Act is included. And the final thing that I will be trying to cast from my hand, well, I'm going to have to cast it from my hand, so we've got no way of getting it back from the graveyard. The Tarisk. 9 mana is not cheap, I agree. However, has haste and ward 10 as long as it was cast. And when it attacks, it fights target creature defending player controls. It's a 10/10 for ward 10. Oh, come on. Yeah, you got to try it out, haven't you? Yes, it dies to Wrath of God, Damnation, XYZ, I know that. But it's just a bit of fun. It's going to be good. And you get to attack with it, especially if you can cast from your hand with the haste. Yeah, repeats itself if it does that, as long as you've got Neyith in play. And that's it. That's my little take on Neyith, of the Dire Hunt. Again, it's going to be another one coming out tomorrow. There's going to be another Jumpstart. No, it's not Jumpstart tomorrow, something completely different tomorrow. There'll be another Jumpstart video next week, so keep your eyes out for that. As for now, this is it for today. Hopefully you've hit the sub button that's here somewhere that I'm pointing to, hopefully. There, sub button. There you go. Sub. 247 as I record this at the moment, so if you can hit the sub button, I'd really appreciate it. And that's it. Let me know in the comments if you think there's anything I've missed out, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, there is one thing I have missed out, which I'm aware of. Lure should probably be in the deck somewhere, but I couldn't work out where to put it in. So, you know, Lure helps, and Death Touch. Well, we've got Death Touch slightly, but Lure helps. Anyway, that's it now. Take care. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.